Purloined Letter, by Edgar Allan Poe. Nil sapientiae odiosius acumen nimio. Seneca. At Paris, just after dark one gusty evening in the autumn of 18, I was enjoying the twofold luxury of meditation and a meerschaum, in company with my friend C. Auguste Dupin in his little back library, or book closet, au troisième, number 33, Rue Dunit, Faubourg Street, Germain. For 1 hour at least we had maintained a profound silence, while each, to any casual observer, might have seemed intently and exclusively occupied with the curling eddies of smoke that oppressed the atmosphere of the chamber. For myself, however, I was mentally discussing certain topics which had formed matter for conversation between us at an earlier period of the evening. I mean the affair of the Rue Morgue and the mystery attending the murder of Marie Roget. I looked upon it, therefore, as something of a coincidence, when the door of our apartment was thrown open and admitted our old acquaintance, Monsieur G., the prefect of the Parisian police. We gave him a hearty welcome, for there was nearly half as much of the entertaining as of the contemptible about the man, and we had not seen him for several years. We had been sitting in the dark, and Dupin now arose for the purpose of lighting a lamp, but sat down again without doing so, upon G.S. saying that he had called to consult us, or rather to ask the opinion of my friend, about some official business which had occasioned a great deal of trouble. If it is any point requiring reflection, observed Dupin as he forbore to enkindle the wick, we shall examine it to better purpose in the dark. That is another of your odd notions, said the prefect, who had a fashion of calling everything odd that was beyond his comprehension, and thus lived amid an absolute legion of oddities. Very true, said Dupin, as he supplied his visitor with a pipe and rolled towards him a comfortable chair. And what is the difficulty now? I asked. Nothing more in the assassination way, I hope? Oh no, nothing of that nature. The fact is, the business is very simple indeed, and I make no doubt that we can manage it sufficiently well ourselves. But then I thought Dupin would like to hear the details of it, because it is so excessively odd. Simple and odd, said Dupin. Why, yes, and not exactly that either. The fact is, we have all been a good deal puzzled because the affair is so simple, and yet baffles us altogether. Perhaps it is the very simplicity of the thing which puts you at fault, said my friend. What nonsense you do talk, replied the prefect, laughing heartily. Perhaps the mystery is a little too plain, said Dupin. Oh, good heavens! Who ever heard of such an idea? A little too self-evident. Ha! 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 Ho! 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 Roared our visitor, profoundly amused. Oh, Dupin, you will be the death of me yet. And what, after all, is the matter on hand? I asked. Why, I will tell you, replied the prefect, as he gave a long, steady, and contemplative puff, and settled himself in his chair. I will tell you in a few words, but before I begin, let me caution you that this is an affair demanding the greatest secrecy, and that I should most probably lose the position I now hold were it known that I confided it to anyone. Proceed, said I. Or not, said Dupin. Well then, I have received personal information, from a very high quarter, that a certain document of the last importance has been purloined from the royal apartments. The individual who purloined it is known, this beyond a doubt. He was seen to take it. It is known, also, that it still remains in his possession. How is this known? Asked Dupin. It is clearly inferred, replied the prefect, from the nature of the document, and from the non-appearance of certain results which would at once arise from its passing out of the robber's possession. That is to say, from his employing it as he must design in the end to employ it. Be a little more explicit, I said. Well, I may venture so far as to say that the paper gives its holder a certain power in a certain quarter where such power is immensely valuable. The prefect was fond of the cant of diplomacy. Still, I do not quite understand, said Dupin. No? Well, the disclosure of the document to a third person, who shall be nameless, would bring in question the honor of a personage of most exalted station, and this fact gives the holder of the document an ascendancy over the illustrious personage whose honor and peace are so jeopardized. But this ascendancy, I interposed, would depend upon the robber's knowledge of the loser's knowledge of the robber. Who would dare? The thief, said G. Is the minister D, who dares all things, those unbecoming as well as those becoming a man. The thief, said G. Is the minister D, who dares all things, those unbecoming as well as those becoming a man. What in the world has induced you to suppose him the minister? I asked. It is clearly inferred, said the prefect, from the nature of the document and from the circumstances of the case. The royal lady from whom the letter was stolen was sitting alone in her boudoir. A letter was delivered to her by a person of inferior rank. While she was reading it, she was suddenly disturbed by the entrance of the other royal personage. She was unable to conceal the letter, which was in a large and conspicuous hand. She placed it openly upon a table. At this moment the minister D entered. His lynx I immediately perceived the paper, its contents, and its character. He comprehended her embarrassment. He guessed her secret. After some business transactions, hurried through in his ordinary manner, he took from his pocket a letter somewhat similar to the one in question, opened it, pretended to read it, and then placed it in close juxtaposition to the other. Again he conversed for some 15 minutes upon the public affairs. At length, in taking leave, he took also the letter from the table, while leaving his own in its place. The rightful owner saw, but of course dared not call attention to the act in the presence of the third personage who stood at her elbow. The minister decamped, leaving his own letter, one of no importance, upon the table. Here, then, said Dupin to me, you have precisely what you demand to make the ascendancy complete, the robber's knowledge of the loser's knowledge of the robber. Yes, replied the prefect, and the power thus attained has, for many months past, been wielded for political purposes to a very dangerous extent. The personage robbed is more thoroughly convinced, every day, of the necessity of reclaiming the letter. But this, of course, cannot be done openly. In fine, driven to despair, she has committed the matter to me. Then whom, said Dupin, amid a perfect whirlwind of smoke. No more sagacious agent could, I suppose, be desired or even imagined. You flatter me, replied the prefect. But it is possible that some such opinion may have been entertained. It is clear, said I, as you observe, that the letter is still in the possession of the minister. Since it is this possession, and not any employment of the letter, which bestows the power. With the employment the power departs. True, said G. And upon this conviction I proceeded. My first care was to make a thorough search of the minister's hotel, and here my chief embarrassment lay in the necessity of searching without his knowledge. Beyond all things, I have been warned of the danger which would result from giving him reason to suspect our design. But, said I, you are quite au fait in these investigations. The Parisian police have done this thing often before. Oh, yes. And for this reason I did not despair. The habits of the minister gave me, too, a great advantage. He is frequently absent from home all night. His servants are by no means numerous. They sleep at a distance from their master's apartment, and, being chiefly Neapolitans, are readily made drunk. I have keys, as you know, with which I can open any chamber or cabinet in Paris. For 3 months, a night has not passed during which I have not personally conducted a thorough search of the premises. My honor is interested, and, to mention a great secret, the reward is enormous. I presume you did not lose sight of the document during all this time? Said Dupin. Impossible, replied the prefect. It has been subjected to all kinds of scrutiny. I made a most minute examination of the furniture in each apartment, and opened every possible drawer. I employed microscopes as is usual. A letter, however small or thin, would have been discovered. But you did not open every parcel? Said Dupin. Certainly I did. And the paper on the walls? Said Dupin. Yes. The floors? Said Dupin. They were examined, inch by inch. The ceilings? Said Dupin. They were tested. You have done all that is usual, said Dupin. But there is one thing which you have not done. What is that? Demanded the prefect. You have not searched for the letter in the places where it is most likely to be found. The prefect laughed. I am not quite sure that I understand you, he said. The human mind, continued Dupin, is apt to overlook what is obvious because it lies too directly under the eye. Still, said the prefect, I do not see. Let me ask you, said Dupin. Did you ever see a letter rack? Of course, replied G. And did you ever think to look in it? The prefect stared. It is possible, he said, that the letter may be hanging in the rack. The very thing, replied Dupin. I have been long convinced that the letter is not only in the possession of the minister, but that it is in plain sight. But, said the prefect, the letter is a letter and cannot be in plain sight. The letter, said Dupin, may be so placed as to elude the ordinary scrutiny of the police. The man who stole it knew your methods. He foresaw them. He knew that you would search in the most secret places. He therefore avoided those places. He knew that you would look behind the scenes. He therefore placed the letter before your eyes. I am still incredulous, said the prefect. You are incredulous, said Dupin, because you do not consider the intellectual character of the man with whom you have to deal. He is a poet and therefore a man of imagination. He is also a mathematician, and thus capable of the most subtle analysis. Such a man would never think of hiding a letter in a manner too obvious for the police to suspect. But how, said I, could he disguise the letter so completely? He did not disguise it completely, replied Dupin. He altered it just enough. He reversed it. He crumpled it. He soiled it. He placed it in a card rack, where it seemed to be a worthless memorandum. And you recovered it in this way? Said I. Yes, replied Dupin. I paid him a visit. I observed his room. I saw the letter. I left behind me a facsimile. On the following morning I returned. A little disturbance in the street called the minister's attention from his room. During that moment I took the letter and departed. And the reward? Asked the prefect eagerly. I received it, said Dupin, as well as a very deep satisfaction. The prefect departed, thoroughly confounded. Why, I asked, did you not give him this explanation at once? For reasons, replied Dupin, which it is unnecessary to detail. He is too fond of method. He cannot reason beyond it. Thus ended this affair, which afforded me a pleasure greater than any I had ever known from the exercise of intellect.